Hi, my name is Hellfire. EA Play is just a couple weeks away, and this is everything we know about Battlefield 2042 so far, more or less. Firstly, the headline items. For the first time ever, the game will now accommodate up to 128 players. Past 3 titles have all pitched a maximum of 32 v 32 player lobbies, and now we'll be getting glorious 64 v 64. Biggest ever in the franchise's history. Now there are some caveats to this. Players on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 will only have access to 64 player lobbies, owing to technical limitations, and their maps will be smaller, whereas next-gen consoles and PC players will have full access. Additionally, DICE have raised eyebrows by saying that for another first, they will use up to 64 AI bots in a lobby, primarily to help keep servers populated and active, and say that at peak times we may never even see a single one. Now, they are keen to stress that human players will be prioritised and that the AI will make way as players join the game. Personally, I think this could be a good step, depending on how effective the AI are, and also that they're not open to abuse. Battlefield veterans will recall either lengthy queues trying to join a busy game, or the lonely wait of trying to start a fresh lobby on your own. We've already seen a proof of concept where PvP and PvE have already been combined in other games. The ones I'm familiar with would be Destiny 2 and The Division 1 and 2. DICE have made no firm statement regarding crossplay yet. The beauty of crossplay enables games to maintain player numbers at a high level, but at the same time brings a host of potential problems with it, mainly in the form of hackers and cheats. This could be a way to circumvent that. As a frustrated Warzone player and a Battlefield veteran, I'll wait to see how this all pans out. Another step DICE have taken is to update their premium pass system, now known as a Battle Pass. Unlike previous iterations in the franchise, the Battle Pass now only provides cosmetic items, whereas all new DLC maps, specialists, weapons, gadgets and vehicles will be available for everyone who owns the game. There is a whole history of content in the past that just fell by the wayside as player bases were divided between the haves and have-nots. Thankfully, they have now eliminated this so everyone can stick together. They have also stressed that there will be no Battle Royale. After an unsuccessful attempt with Battlefield 5's Firestorm, they are keen to move forward on what DICE say is a saturated market, where traditional Battle Royales are diametrically opposed to the Battlefield experience. DICE also announced that there will be no single-player campaign, with the developers choosing to instead thread a narrative throughout the various multiplayer modes. According to Oscar Gabrielson, DICE's general manager, this has allowed them to focus their entire team and resources on the multiplayer experience, and no doubt from a time and cost perspective, this is a significant reallocation. Single player campaigns often cost just as much as creating multiplayer modes, and require as much if not more time to develop, which for a game mode the large majority of players only ever play once, if at all. This is an important consideration. So what is the narrative for 2042? In summary, in the near future, a series of environmental disasters has brought the world to the brink of collapse. During the chaos, whole nations and governments crumble, forcibly expatriating over 1.2 billion of the world's population. Now stateless, they come to be known as no-pats, and from their ranks, a new type of soldier emerges to protect themselves. War breaks out between the remaining nation states over dwindling resources, and the no-pats are forced to choose between two sides in an effort to survive, with a US faction taking on a Russian faction. So what game modes are there? Firstly, there is all-out warfare, consisting of both the perennial favourite Conquest and also Breakthrough, a more recent addition to the franchise starting with Battlefield 1. Conquest will again be central to the Battlefield experience, with some tweaks to the mechanics. Instead of capturing flags to reduce your opponent's ticket count, DICE have now introduced clustering, where one objective consists of multiple sectors. We've yet to see any footage that we know of for Breakthrough, but as expected, the layout across the maps will be different to that of Conquest, with one team defending and holding the line, whilst the other attacks. Now there is a new mode called Hazard Zone, which as yet we know very little about. Described by design director Daniel Berlin as a high-stakes squad-based experience, where choosing the right loadout strategy is incredibly important, we expect to find out more during EA Play. DICE have described Hazard Zone as more contemporary than traditional Battle Royales, suggesting they are in fact taking a second attempt at a BR mode. There is also an unfounded rumour floating around that a DICE employee claimed that Hazard Zone is an evolution of the Battle Royale concept, moving the concept forward. We'll wait and see. There is a secret game mode just currently listed as Redacted, described by DICE as a love letter to all our fans. Ripple Effect Studios, formerly DICE LA, who are responsible for both Hazard Zone and this Redacted game mode, have just recently confirmed this will feature community favourite maps from across the franchise, updated and brought into 2042. The rumour mill suggests these maps will be Operation Metro, Operation Locker, Wake Island, Siege of Shanghai, Arica Harbour and Caspian Border. Sign me up for 500% ticket counts on Metro, please. As far as maps go, we know these will be the biggest in the franchise's history, the largest being Breakaway, estimated by Daniel Berlin to be 5.9 square kilometres. To give that some perspective, Warzone's Verdansk is 7.8 square kilometres, so you can see there will be a significant sense of scale. We have not heard the term Levolution once with regards to 2042, but we do know from the trailers there will be large game-changing events on these maps in the form of storms and launching space rockets, for example. DICE are quick to stress though that these are not fixed events. They will not appear every single game, and if they do appear, it will be at a random time. So here are the maps. Set in the territory of Queen Maudland, Antarctica, Breakaway is apparently an oil field now with destructible fuel tanks and silos capable of creating permanent fires. I would expect to see parts of the Antarctic shelf breaking up the terrain significantly here, not looking quite as idyllic as it does at the moment. I'm also glad to see this will actually include the giant base jump we saw in the trailers and so reminiscent of Damavand Peak. Next we have Discarded, set in the shipbreaking city of Alang, India. This is an actual shipbreaker's yard in real life, looking like a scene from a Mad Max film, where we can expect infantry to be fighting in and amongst the hulls with all-out vehicle warfare outside. We do get this one shot of a giant section of hull collapsing, and we can also expect storms, so it remains to be seen how much this map might change over the course of a battle. Hourglass is set in the city of Doha, Qatar. This is the map that we've seen the most of so far. Currently a thriving metropolis, in 2042 it is a ghost city being swallowed up by the desert. This map looks vast, with enormous verticality, and as we know, the weather dynamics will play a massive part if and when they arrive. Kaleidoscope is set in South Korea. This is the second most visible map so far, set in the real-world smart city of Songdo. This looks very clearly like an urban warfare map and definitely evokes memories of Siege of Shanghai and maybe even Dawnbreaker. We'll have to wait to see if any of these skyscrapers are prone to collapse. Next we have Manifest, set in the real-world cargo facility of Brownie Island, Singapore. I expect this one to be the closest we have to an infantry-focused map, in the same vein as Operation Metro, Operation Locker and Operation Underground, although we can now expect weather events obviously, and maybe some naval interaction in the surrounding waters. Although, with the scout heli featuring heavily in the official screenshot, I do have a nagging concern this could end up like Fjell 652 from Battlefield 5, which is essentially an infantry map where skilled pilots can farm kills from the sky and literally shoot the entire lobby like fish in a barrel. Next we have Orbital, set in Kourou, French Guiana, specifically the Guiana Space Centre, France's and the European Space Agency's main spaceport. As well as any weather dynamics, we also need to look out for that rocket launch to play a major part on the map. Now, Renewal is the one map we have not seen much of. Set in the eastern desert of Egypt, from the description we know it features a giant wall, built to secure rich man-made agricultural areas, taking centre stage on the map. Now we are not sure if there's a real world equivalent to this map, but it could be a later stage of Egypt's Benban solar park, which is currently the 4th largest solar power plant in the world. DICE have confirmed that there will be 4 more new maps added to the game over the course of year 1. If we also include the redacted game mode, we could potentially have 17 maps in total by the end of year 1. Moving on to the specialists, Battlefield 2042 has evolved the traditional class system of the franchise. Where previously weapons were locked to 4 separate classes, you now have more flexibility where weapon loadouts can be combined with any combined gadgets and traits you wish. The class system still exists, just in a slightly different form. Under the 4 umbrella classes of Assault, Support, Engineer and Recon, you will now have multiple specialists, each with a unique gadget and trait combination. DICE have confirmed that the game will launch with 10 specialists and 4 more to be added throughout the year. So far we've only seen 4 of the specialists in any detail, and here they are. First, we have the Canadian Webster McKay, who's part of the Assault class. His main gadget is the grappling hook, we can see here, and his main trait is described as nimble, perfect for players who like to move fast and try to outflank their opponents. Next we have the German Maria Falk, who is part of the support class. Her main gadget is the S21 Surette pistol, allowing her to heal and revive players from a distance. Now this is something of a shift, as traditionally medics were classed as assault. I don't think this will necessarily cause any dramas though. Her main trait is described as combat surgeon, allowing her to revive players to full health rather than just a small portion. This also suggests that squad mates will once more be able to revive you even if they're not medics, something which was introduced with Battlefield 1. Next we have the Russian Pyotr Boris Guskovsky, who is classed as an engineer. His main gadget is the SG-36 sentry gun, which will automatically spot and engage targets. His trait is described as sentry operator, meaning the closer he stays to the turret, the more effective it will be. Now obviously this is limiting in terms of mobility, but on the flip side, one player can effectively double their own firepower. So deployed wisely, this specialist could be very effective in the right situations. Finally we have the South African Vickers Casper van Dela, who is part of the Recon class. His gadget is the OVP Recon drone, which can be used to spot enemies and disrupt electronics with the EMP dart. It can be manually controlled or just left hovering automatically to identify targets. His trait is described as movement sensor, which can apparently warn him when he's being flanked, possibly working in a similar fashion to Warzone's High Alert. Now, obviously you can choose any weapon you like now, but my intuition says the traits will direct players to certain weapons anyway. A sniper in the hands of Casper will be a very potent combo. Webster and Falk would most likely lean to assault rifles, SMGs and shotguns. Boris would most likely favour LMGs to maximise his firepower, and so on. Having said that, the best part of Battlefield is always discovering the unexpected. Other gadgets specialists we've seen in the trailers so far include wingsuit, which we've seen multiple times. I'm guessing the robot dog might be another gadget that we would see perhaps for the engineer class, able to run the field to provide sabotage or repair services, much like the EOD bot. Here it appears to be fully weaponized with a gun turret. We've also seen this character here holding a ballistic shield, and then also this player here who may be using deployable cover. Whether or not these are gadgets rather than equipable items remains to be seen. We've also found out some brief details about player movement, with DICE stating that the movement system has been developed and improved from what we've seen in Battlefield 5 so far, rather than Battlefields 3 and 4. This is a good thing, as infantry mobility in those games was notoriously clunky. So what about the infantry weapons in 2042? Here's what the community has been able to identify so far. Many thanks to the Internet Movie Firearms database, and also Redditor The Real Space Hosh for putting all the work in here. Let's start with the assault rifles. This character here on the manifest map can be seen holding the AK-24, which is based off the AK-12, a weapon many returning players will be familiar with from Battlefield 4. Here we can see a specialist holding a weapon known as the 4v9, based off the Daniel Defense M4v7. This one appears to be equipped with a mid-range sight. Next we have a perennial favourite, the FN Scar H. This one is apparently the close quarter combat variant with a shorter 13-inch barrel. We see another variant here with the FN40GL grenade launcher, capable of firing a variety of 40mm shells including high explosives, incendiaries and smoke, otherwise known as a noob tube. Lastly, for the assault rifles we have the M5A3, which is based off the real-world Sig Sauer MCX Spear, rumoured to be the next-gen primary weapon for the US Army. Moving on to the submachine guns, we can see this character here holding the K30, also known as the very distinctive looking Chris Vector, which typically has ridiculously fast fire rate. Here we can see a specialist holding the PBX-9, based off the LWRC SMG-45, and we can see another variant here, this time equipped with a hybrid over and under close to mid-range scope. Moving on to the marksman rifles, we can see this character here holding the semi-automatic Chukavin SVCH. Same rifle can also be seen here behind Casper on his character screen. Next we have the DSR-1 bolt-action precision rifle, which is currently used by a variety of counter-terrorist and special forces units worldwide. Lastly, for the marksman rifles, we can see this player here holding the TG-24, otherwise known as the Seiko TRG, which is a Finnish bolt-action precision rifle, again used by a number of special forces units worldwide. As for the light machine guns, expect there to be more, but the ones we've seen so far include this one, the KAC LAMG, which Warzone players may recognise as an evolution of the Stoner LMG. And here is another LMG most FPS players will be familiar with, the PKP Peshenek, which in real life is a very popular choice with the Russian armed forces. As for shotguns, the only one we've seen so far is the Remington M870 MCS, which Battlefield 4 players may remember as an absolutely overpowered monster. Out of the sidearms, the only one we've seen so far is the G57, which is based on the Glock 19 Gen 4, seen here with a reflex sight and presumably a mounted torch or a targeting laser. Last but not least, we have that rocket launcher from the Renderzook Recreation in the reveal trailer, which has been identified as a Carl Gustaf M4 and is technically an anti-tank weapon. Go figure. DICE have introduced a new system for weapon attachments, enabling people to adjust their loadouts on the fly. Known as the Plus system, this is meant to increase player versatility, but they are keen to point out that you can't suddenly turn an SMG into a sniper rifle, for example. Vehicle gameplay has always been a big part of the Battlefield experience, and this one is ramping that up even more. For the first time, players can now call in vehicles wherever they are on the map. We have no idea on spawn limitations yet, but I think it's safe to assume that we will not be seeing lobbies with 128 tanks on the ground. Squad capabilities have also been improved, where nearly all vehicle positions will have some functionality, such as manning anti-air, spotter seats, gunner positions, mine deployment, rather than just being a passenger. Let's have a quick look at the vehicles that have been identified so far. First, we have the MV-38 Condor, essentially a transport vehicle which can hold a crew of 6, a futuristic version of the V-22 Osprey, replacing the tilt-rotor wings with a pair of jet turbines. Whilst the Osprey has no armaments, the Condor has 3 gunner positions alongside 2 passenger positions and the pilot. We've also seen in the reveal trailer something which appears similar to the MIL Mi-24 Hind, another low-capacity troop transport, but well armed, and here appears to have independent gun positions either side of the vehicle. Next, we have the AH-640GX Apache Warchief attack helicopter, manned by a 2-man crew with 1 pilot and 1 gunner. Attack helis have traditionally been one of the most dominant vehicles on the map. I expect this one to be no different. The other attack heli featured by the opposition will be the Ka-52 Alligator, or its naval variant, the Katran, identifiable by its distinctive coaxial rotor assembly, and here appears to now be equipped with a mobile gun turret. The smaller scout heli you can see them chasing here is of course based on the real-world AH-6 Littlebird. This futuristic version is known as the MD-540 Nightbird, capable of holding 1 pilot and 3 passengers, and armed with miniguns and rocket pods. As for the fighter jets, we've seen an F-35E Panther, which is an update to the F-35B Lightning II seen in Battlefield 4, as well as being a manoeuvrable multi-role stealth fighter. It's also capable of vertical takeoff and landing. Here it's engaged with the Sukhoi Su-57 Felon, another multi-role stealth fighter, which has just entered service with the Russian Air Force in December last year. From what we can tell, both fighters are still single-seater only in game, as in real life. As for land vehicles, we have an M1A5 Abrams main battle tank, which in game now features a crew of 4 and again should aid squad-based gameplay. Previously in Battlefields 3 and 4, M1 tanks could only hold a crew of 3 and 2 respectively, although Battlefields 1 and 5 had more flexibility in this respect with other designs. The MBT featuring for the Russian faction will apparently be the T-14 Armata, which we see partially at a couple points in the reveal trailer, and I expect it will feature the same crew size. We also see a How and How EV3F4 Ripsaw tearing across the landscape of Breakaway. This one appears to be armed with a roof-mounted turret and can accommodate a crew of 4. Next, we have this LATV-4 hovercraft, likely inspired by the Griffon Hoverwork 2000 TD, although this appears to be a much smaller adaptation at approximately a quarter of the size, and this is also armed with a roof-mounted turret. Whereas the real-life Griffin can accommodate a crew of 3 plus an additional 20 passengers, I would expect this one to hold no more than 4. Next we have the E6 JGR Recon based on the French EBRC Jaguar. No word yet on how many people this can accommodate, but wheeled, amphibious and armed with a cannon and a turret mounted machine gun, this would equate to the LAV-25 from previous battlefields, which carried a total complement of 6. The iconic and notorious Humvee is also returning to the battlefield, here seen with a roof mounted turret and what I can only describe as a Baja Beach Runner configuration. Finally, we have the Polaris WV-850 ATV quad bike, used by militaries around the world and in this game perfectly geared for those players with a serious C4 addiction problem. This is everything I've been able to gather so far on Battlefield 2042. If there's anything I've missed or got wrong, which is highly possible, please let me know in the comments below. We should be finding out a lot more at EA Play, which takes place on the 22nd of July, which is exactly 3 months away from the game's official launch on the 22nd of October this year. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content. Till next time, be good to each other, we'll catch you again soon.